Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Jai Punjabi Radha Madhava Kunda Vihara Gopi Kanapella Madhara Girivara Gopi Kanapella Madhara Girivara Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhu, Jaya Prabhu, Jaya Prabhu, Prabhu, Jai Radha Modana Radha Modana Shri Radhe Jai Jagannathaya Jagannathaya Bhagavate Jaya Sri Bhagavatam Jaya Gorani Jaya Gorani Jaya Gorani Jaya Gorani Jaya Prabhu Jaya Prabhu Jaya Prabhu Jaya Jaya Prabhu Jaya Jayam Vishnupada Paramamsa Parvitacharya Asatara Satashi Srimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupada Paramamsa Parvitacharya Asatara Satashi Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Gaudiya Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Charya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Prem se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasti Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopina Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mathura Dham Ki Jai. Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Maya Yamuna Maya Ki Jai. Kosi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaura Premanandi Hari Hari. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Hare Krishna. Thank you, dear devotees, for being here in person and online. Um, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we're reading from chapter called Prahlad, the best among exalted devotees. Canto 7, chapter 10, text 43 to 44. Okay. Radhashyanucharitam Mahabhagavatasya cha Bhaktir Gyanam Viraktischa Yattarityam Chashya Vaihare Sargastityapyayeshyasya Guna Karma Nivarnanam Ravaresham Stanam Kalena Vyatyayo Mahan. Yes, chapter 10 of text 43 to 44. So would anyone like to chant the verse?
Paradashyan, Paradashyan, Rad, excuse me, Radhadasyanu, Radhadasyanucharitam Maha Bhagavatasya Bhaktir Yanam Viraktisya Yatartyam Chasya Vai Harahe Sarga Stit Yapaya Yesh Sarga Stit Yapaya Hare Krishna Sarga Stit Yap Yayeshasya Guna Karmanuvarnanam Paravaresham Stananam Kalena Vyat Yayo Mahan.
Any other takers? Okay, word for word. Praradashya of Prahlad Maharaj. Anucharitam, characteristics understood by reading or describing his activities. Mahabhagavatasya, of the great and exalted devotee. Cha, also. Bhakti, devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Jnanam, complete knowledge of the transcendence. Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Virakti, renunciation of material existence. Cha, also. Yatartyam, just to understand each of them perfectly. Cha, and. Ashya, of this. Vai, indeed. Hare, always in reference to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sarga, of creation. Sthiti, maintenance. Apyaya, and annihilation. Ishashya, of the Master, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Guna, of the transcendental qualities and opulences. Karma, and activities. Anuvarnanam, description with the disciplic succession. Para avaresham, of different types of living entities known as demigods and demons. Stanam, stananam, of the various planets or places to live. Kalena, in due course of time. Vyatyayaha, the annihilation of everything. Mahan, although very great. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. This narration describes the characteristics of a great and exalted devotee, Prahlad Maharaj, his staunch devotional service, his perfect knowledge, and his perfect detachment from material contamination. It also describes the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the cause of creation, maintenance, and annihilation. Prahlad Maharaj, in his prayers, has described the transcendental qualities of the Lord, and has also described how the various abodes of the demigods and demons, regardless of how materially opulent, are destroyed by the mere direction of the Lord. Srimad Bhagavatam is filled with descriptions of the characteristics of various devotees, with reference to the service of the Lord. This Vedic literature is called Bhagavatam because it deals with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotee. By studying Srimad Bhagavatam under the direction of the bona fide spiritual master, one can perfectly understand the science of Krishna, the nature of the material and spiritual worlds, and the aim of life. Srimad Bhagavatam Amalam Puranam. Srimad Bhagavatam is the spotless Vedic literature, as we have discussed in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam. Therefore, simply by understanding Srimad Bhagavatam, one can understand the science of the activities of the devotees, the activities of the demons, the permanent abode, and the temporary abode. Through Srimad Bhagavatam, everything is perfectly known. Om Agina Timidandasya Gina Gina Shalakaya Shakshu Militanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakara Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagapate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute. Nama Om Vishnu Krishna Stabhutale Shrimati Bhakti Swami Namane Namaste Krishna Padaya Bhakti Shri Guru Kula Shakti Bhakti Namane. Nama Om Vishnu Krishna Prastad Mutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharane. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paskachada Sacharane. Panchakapatribhischa Kripasindhubhyevacha Patitanam Papavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasti Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Good morning, dear devotees. Before we discuss the verse with purport, I want to go to some of the verses in Srimad Bhagavatam 1 to chapter 2 of the first canto, which are some of the verses that are sung before Bhagavatam classes. And one is Srinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridayanta Stohi Avadrani Vidunoti Suhrit Satam. This is Bhagavatam 1 2:17. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, super soul, in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee, who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. So all of you present today have developed the urge to hear. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here this early morning. Nasta praise for Bhajesu, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, Bhagavati Uttamasloke, Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. By a regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart, all that is troublesome to the heart, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. So, thank you all for your presence. It is very special to hear the narrations of Srimad Bhagavatam. Um, and just imagine being there amongst those sages, listening to Srimad Bhagavatam. This is that same Srimad Bhagavatam that was spoken and respoken and respoken. And here we are going verse by verse through that entire Srimad Bhagavatam. Parikshit Maharaj had 7 days. We will also have 7 days at some point. But hopefully, and most of us are getting a much longer head start. we may have, any of us may have 7 days, we may have 1 day. We don't know. We may have 1 minute. But one thing is for sure, that everyone that has left the body did have those time frames, did have 7 days, did have 7 seconds, you know. So those times will come, and this is helping us to prepare for that. So reading the verse again, let us read the translation. This narration describes the characteristics of the great and exalted devotee Prahlad Maharaj, his staunch devotional service, his perfect knowledge, and his perfect detachment from material contamination. It also describes the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the cause of creation, maintenance, and annihilation. Prahlad Maharaj, in his prayers, has described the transcendental qualities of the Lord, and has also described how the various abodes of the demigods and demons, regardless of how materially opulent and are destroyed by the mere direction of the Lord. So in this verse, I think it's Narada Muni that's continuing to share with Yudhisthira Maharaj. And this is a beautiful glorification of Prahlad Maharaj here. His staunch devotional service, his perfect knowledge, and his perfect detachment from material contamination. And so I was thinking about that, the word perfect, which shows up so often there. Perfect knowledge and perfect detachment. And in and of themselves, knowledge and detachment are not. They're prerequisites for devotees. I mean, because we have to gain knowledge. I mean, we're listening to Bhagavatam, right? And we're getting knowledge. But in and of themselves, uh, uh, they will not necessarily. Uh, it's not the ultimate goal. Put it that way. And the reason why Prahlad Maharaj had perfect knowledge and perfect detachment is because he had perfect attachment to the all attractive Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, in fact, that is the only way to have perfect knowledge and perfect detachment. Um, because there are so many yogis who have performed so many austerities and renounced so many things and become so detached. But if bhakti doesn't arise in the heart, then what is the use of all that austerity? You know, and there's so many different types of knowledge in the world. So many books. I mean, that are there on all kinds of subjects, even spiritual subjects. You know, but the highest knowledge is the absolute truth, and it's manifest most purely in pure bhakti, which is manifest in Prahlad Maharaj. So his attachment to the all attractive, his mind being fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord. And when the mind is fixed, the body comes along with it, the activities come along with it, they just follow right along. So our our focus needs to be on purifying the consciousness. Um, because when the consciousness is purified, then all of our activities are purified. The mind is purified, the body is purified. And wherever the pure devotee goes, that atmosphere is purified. He's like a walking tirtha, like Bhakti Tirtha. Um, so perfect knowledge. Uh, Krishna is all knowing. He's Sarvagya. For human beings, our knowledge is imperfect. I mean, at best, we can have partial knowledge, you know. Like Bhagavatam is giving us the highest knowledge and leading to the highest perfection, the perfect knowledge of the absolute truth, our relationship with Krishna. So, in order to cultivate this perfect knowledge and perfect detachment, we need three things. We need Guru, we need Sadhu, and we need Sastra. What was the last thing? Shastra, scriptures. Um, and in that way, we can gradually see through the eyes of Shastra. And the Guru, the Acharyas, can help us to unpack and understand the Shastra. And other sadhus who are also studying and practicing and hearing and chanting, they can also assist us on the journey. In fact, Radhanath Swami Maharaj, he says that 90% of our spiritual advancement is based on association, who we associate with. So we should take advantage of uh, being in the presence of each other, being in the presence of devotees, especially pure devotees. Um, I see Devi Priti is on here, and she was recently in the presence of Radhanath Swami last weekend in Washington, D.C. You were there? Ah, you were there? Oh, wonderful. Okay. God is associated in between the fire and love and that. Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, my daughter was telling me that. So, yeah, so we want to take advantage as much as possible. Um, and so we're happy to have you here. And I said, we're happy to have you here. And I would love to hear later more about your experience with Radhanath Maharaj. Um, and so this verse again is describing the glories of Prahlad Maharaj, that uh, and the experiences, I mean, the whole pastime of Prahlad Maharaj is demonstrating just these points: the perfect detachment, the perfect knowledge, the staunch devotional service, no material contamination. And so these are the qualities of a great and exalted devotee. That's um, in the verse it says Mahabhagavatasya, of the great and exalted devotee. And this is actual greatness. You know, in the material world, there's so many people who are trying to achieve greatness, but not knowing that, not really knowing what that is. What does that mean? Because someone can strive for you know uh, the greatest wealth, the greatest renunciation, the greatest beauty, the greatest fame, the greatest power, you know, all these things. But and most people think in the material world that these people who have all these things, that are amassing all of these types of things, um, who have so much material knowledge, that they are exalted and they get rewarded in this world materially um, for these qualities. But actually, these qualities, Krishna he says he is the ability in man. It's not us, right? Krishna is supplying all of that. And that ability is actually meant to be given to him in service, and that way we are connected with him in that way. And so when covered by illusion, we are trying to actually achieve the greatness and the exalted positions, but in an imperfect way and with an imperfect understanding. the knowledge is not perfect for the ordinary materialist. Um, and so, and even the qualities of a devotee, um, when we look at the various, you know, the 26 qualities of a devotee, um, they these qualities are not really fully achieved by separate endeavor. Um, like Prahlad Maharaj, he didn't really make any separate endeavor to develop the qualities he had. He just only fixed his mind on the lotus feet of the Lord. And everything else came from that. All gyan, all vairagya, all detachment from material contamination. It was automatic, you know. Um, because of his bhakti, Manmana Bhavamad Bhakto. Right? And so Prahlad Maharaj is one of the 12 Mahajans. In Bhagavatam 6, 3, 20, and 21, all the 12 Mahajans are described. And so I was thinking, how the character Prahlad Maharaj is such an example for us, and how, there's this phrase, WWJD, out there. I'm sure anybody know what that means, WWJD? No, no, no.
What would Jesus do?
Right, right. That's a common thing. That's people's, what would WWJD? Actually, there was a movie about it. What would Jesus do? So I was thinking, it should be WWPD. What would Prabhupada do, or what would Prahlad do? Um, and so often uh, we we have, each one of us, we all have our mind and body. That's the adhyatmika that we carry with us all the time. And the mind is always telling us this and that. The senses are always pulling, right, and tugging on us. Um, and I was thinking that in many situations we could reflect on the past times and let those be our inspiration by detaching ourselves from the mind and attaching the mind and engaging the mind in reading the sastra, chanting the holy name, absorbing in the holy name, and therefore the imperfect senses are being absorbed in the all perfect, just like you have the 64 limbs of devotional service, the nectar of devotion describes. But of those 64, 5 are primary, and that's Nam, Gam, Bhagavatam, Archana, and Sadhu Sangha. And there's this, I'm not going to read it, but it's Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur he has written a statement about these 5 most prominent limbs of bhakti. And he was saying, emphasizing that the chanting of the holy name, Harinam, Sankirtan, um, is is the most primary thing. Of course, it's the Yuga Dharma for this Kali Yuga. But he was also saying in relation to the other four of the five primary, whether it's being living in the holy Dham, taking shelter, Srimad Bhagavatam, deity worship, sadhu sangha, that chanting of the holy name must be there with all those things, especially in Kali Yuga. In other words, that one cannot achieve the perfection, because it's mentioned that devotion, any of the limbs of devotional service, 9 devotional service processes, one can achieve perfection. But in Kali Yuga, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was making the point that without infusing the holy name with those other aspects of devotional service, you cannot achieve, you know, the ultimate goal, the prayojan. So, like even when you're doing deity service, there's mantras you have to chant, and in those mantras, you are chanting the holy name. You know, when you are with devotees, you're speaking of Krishna. You're chanting the holy name, and what to speak of kirtan. With devotees, you know, and you feel that purification. Um, so I was also thinking about how, what is this verse? There's a verse in I think it's also in the second chapter of the first canto that talks about here it is, 21, verse 21 of the first canto of second chapter. Vidyate hridaya grantis chidyante sarva samshaya shiyante chashya karmani justa eva manishvare. Thus the knot in the heart is pierced, and all misgivings are cut to pieces. The chain of fruitive actions is terminated when one sees the self as master. Sometimes, well, not sometimes, most of the times, most people are deluded in thinking that the dictates of the mind is the master. But when we see the self as master, then we see that we are simply a servant. So, and Prabhupada in that purport, he describes that knot in the heart is ahankara, the false ego. He says, this enlightenment, that is the perfect way of learning transcendental knowledge. There's that word perfect again. That this process is helped by the supersoul within such devotees. This enlightenment perfectly enables the devotee to distinguish spirit from matter, because the knot of spirit and matter is untied by the Lord. This knot is called ahankara, and it falsely obliges a living being to become identified with matter. As soon as this knot is loosened, therefore all the clouds of doubts are at once cleared off. One sees his master and fully engages himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, making a full termination of the chain of fruitive action. Jai. So, thank you. Okay, just before you say that, I just want to say that I'm going to stop right here. There's other things I want to share, but we're going to open up for questions, and we have a question from the audience.
So, like you guys emphasize so much on hearing as part of the devotional service. So, why should I chant? I can just keep hearing the holy name. What do you tell?
So,
Huh?
can you repeat that, please?
Sorry?
Can you please repeat the question?
So, there is somebody who told me that you guys emphasize so much on hearing. So, I don't have to personally chant. I can just keep hearing the holy name. So, what do you tell that person?
So the question is someone's asking about hearing. You know, why do we focus so much on hearing? We can just hear the holy name. Well, there's a few ways to look at that. Um, when we chant, Srila Prabhupada gave us the holy name, and one of the ways that we practice is through japa. And when we chant japa, we're chanting out loud and we're also hearing. So both are taking place at the same time. The hearing is there, Shravan, and then through the chanting. And so there's Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smarnam. So that when we yes. So it's interesting. Shravanam is the first thing. We had to hear about Krishna consciousness from someone, you know. So a devotee, a book, so on, somewhere, somehow we made some connection, and that was Shravana, which takes us to Kirtanam, you know, because we're hearing about Krishna through a devotee or through a book. And through that chanting, we chant more and we hear more. And we get more association. I hope is that okay? Okay. Jana, you have a question or comment?
Yes, Hare Krishna. Thank you for. Am I echoing?
No.
Yeah, thank you for a very Krishna conscious class. Just reflecting back some verses that I thought of while you were speaking, how you talked about. Now that the mic is on the computer, yeah, I'm just reflecting some verses I heard you talking, and that came to mind, like Manmana Bhavamad Bhakto, right? Krishna telling us to fix our mind on him. And then you were talking about how Prahlad Maharaj, he expressed bhakti. So Krishna says, Bhaktya mam abhijanati, right? 1855, that we can understand and we can know him through bhakti. That's the only way he's known, Bhaktya, by bhakti. And then also how you were talking about Parusham Nishu, that Krishna is the ability in man. Yeah, it's very nice reflection, right? Like we're looking at all these other great people and we're thinking, I want to be great by maybe one of those 6 opulences. But also we're using like blind men's knowledge to figure out like what greatness looks like. And then the blind man, Bhagavatam talks about how the blind man just leads other blind men into a dark well. But we need to know what greatness we want to achieve, which really is the smallness of realizing our constitutional position as a servant of Krishna, where we're small and he's great, and we understand the reality of life, that humility is reality. And then you're talking about the knot. That purport to 1-21 was beautiful. How Prabhupada talked about the knot of matter and spirit tied together with that ahankar and Krishna loosening it. in in that same chapter of Bhagavatam, there's these two verses in succession, 1:2:14 and 1:2:15. Tasmade kena manasa, Bhagavan Sattvatam Patihi, Shrotavya, hearing, Kirtitavya, chanting, Deyas Pujas Chanityada, worshipping and remembering. I do those with one fixed attention, Tasmad Ekena Manasa. Therefore, with this Ekena Manasa, this Eka one, like one pointed, and then further the knot in the heart is discussed in the next verse, 1:2:15. This Yadanudyasana Yukta Karma Granti, the knot, Nibandana, Chindanti Kovidas Tasya, cut it, Kona Koryat Kataratim. So, like we're doing now, like with sword in hand, intelligent persons cut through the knots of reactionary work karma by remembering the personality of Godhead, therefore who will not pay attention to his message. So you were talking about how we've developed this urge to hear, or else why else are we here? Or else we're also just maybe trying to just follow the instructions that Guru Sadhu and Sastra gave us. So that also could be why we're here. And that knot in the heart, it's cut through the remembrance, the Yadanudya, that's the weapon of the asana, like a weapon. Yadanudyasana, the weapon of remembrance of Krishna, that's cutting that knot of karma in the heart. Anyway, Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Thank you for giving so many other references, John Vatsalas. There's so many nice verses in that second chapter. Oh man. Devaki Priti. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, hopefully you can hear me. I'm outside.
Loud and clear, yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dad, for an amazing class. And there's a lot of take home. Is echoing, it's okay?
No, you're okay.
Okay. There was a lot of take homes. But the thing I was thinking about the most was the what would Jesus do? And then you said, what would Prabhupada do? What would Prahlad do? And I was just thinking that, like, it's so important for us as devotees to remember that as we're becoming purified, to remember and think about what would our spiritual master do, what would the great acharyas do to help us not get pulled too much down into the modes and just react according to our conditioning. So I think that's the biggest take home for me, is just remembering that, you know, when I'm about to do something, think, would my spiritual master want me to do this? Would you be pleased with what I'm doing? And if the answer is no, then I shouldn't do it. So that's my biggest take home. There's so many nice points. I love what you were saying about the mind and some other points, but I think that's the biggest thing I'm taking into my day today, is thinking about that, remembering that we're representing Krishna, representing our spiritual masters. So we want to represent them nicely as best as we can, which you have done today. Thank you so much, Dad. Hi, Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Thank you. Mother Leela Kishore.
Hare Krishna. Good morning. Thank you so much for this wonderful class and so many points. And I was thinking of the same thing when you said, what would Jesus do? And how you started out by saying how Prahlad Maharaj, he was so attached to the lotus feet, and he didn't have to speculate about what to do when things happened. He knew what to do. He stayed in prayer. He stayed thinking of Vishnu. He was constantly trying to preach. And so he was protected. And what needed to happen, happened. That saying, what would Jesus do, is a dilution and a mixing of the material world in Christianity. And whenever people say it, I always respond with, what did Jesus do? And it actually comes from, it's from a verse in the Bible that says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. Don't speculate. And in all your ways, submit to him, and he will make your paths straight. And that's exactly what you said about Prahlad Maharaj. And so for me, it's more a sense of, am I chanting? Am I reading? Am I showing up for class? Am I trusting with all my heart in Paramatma and not depending on my mind, my thinking? And when people ask that question, what would Jesus do? What they're really saying is, this is what I want to do, but I guess I should check out what Jesus would do. And it's like, you want to know? Ask, pray, chant, and then allow the Lord to direct your steps. And then all you have to do is surrender and follow. Thank you for your class. And thank you for bringing up that interesting modern version of a Christian saying that I hope in some way I've allowed people to realize makes pretty much not a lot of sense in the way that it's used in Christianity. Haribo.
Jai, thank you for sharing that source from the Bible and the pastimes. Appreciate it. Okay, we have a couple minutes. Jambavati?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for class. In terms of that saying, what would Jesus do, or what would Guru Dev do? In this case, I believe in a lot of situations, Guru Dev would acknowledge our guest. And so I would like to acknowledge that we have Mother Isopanishad on board with us this morning, all
Jai.
the way from Ohio.
Wow, wonderful. Haribo, Mother. And I see you have your hand up, Mother. Upanishad, please.
Hare Krishna. Hari
Hare
Bol.
Krishna.
Jai. I was going to mention Jambavati because I was so anxious this morning to have the association. That was what I raised my hand about. I am just so ecstatic about your realizations, and thank you very much for being there. And then I wanted to see you too as well. And I said, wow, I get the best of both. Hare Krishna. Hari Bol,
Wow.
all you wonderful devotees. Hare Krishna. Jai.
Jai, thank you so much for your presence, Mother Upanishad. And we also have another surprise guest, Sati Devi. Jai, Hare Krishna. Sati,
Yay,
please.
Haribol Swati.
Hare Krishna. I was just
Hare Krishna.
wanted to share on the what would Jesus do and what Devaki Priya was saying that my Gurudev would say like if I do this, if I do what I'm about to do right now, if everyone in the movement did it, like how would it affect the movement and how would it affect? Yeah, so I just was thinking I could take it a step further. So my Gurudev would say.
Hmm. Nice reflection. Thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, yes. Yeah, what would our own guru do? You know, one of the things that, I mean, really, I try to remember it often is that every interaction is a cry for love or sharing an extension of love. And it's important to reflect in that way because um, then we're focused on how can I serve in the situation, how can I show some love in the situation, you know. And I remember him giving a class one time and he was sharing it, and I don't remember exactly what the class was, but he said, you know, how many times have I had an opportunity to show some love and I didn't? And he was saying it much more emphatically than I am. You know, how much I had an opportunity to show some love and I didn't, you know. So every day there's so many opportunities to show some love and to not allow the cry for love to distract us from our service to give love. Because we can let the ahankara, the mind and senses get in the way where we identify too much instead of actually saying, wow, this person is in pain, this person is hurting. Let me try to show some compassion and love. And I just heard the Kasha of love. So we will end right here. Thank you so much, devotees, for your presence. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Quando mui savadana mate. Yahara prasadeva emava toriji. Pratiho mate. Sahanavakya Nikechikori. Ekachare to preta. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravakare Nirvishesha Bhagavad Bhakta Krishna Chaitanya Yamaitangrana Vivasani Go Bhaktivinoda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare Radha Hare Babu